The Quintana Award recognizes engineering contributions to the world of voice. And this year's Quintana Award winner is exemplary. Dr. Deliyski is the Michigan State University Foundation Professor and Chair of the Department of Communicative Sciences and Disorders in East Lansing. Not a terribly easy thing to say for those of us who trained in Ann Arbor. His background is in computer engineering and signal processing. His biography is in your program, and I will not cut into his time by reviewing all of it. But as a PhD student in another field, he became enamored with voice and has devoted his career to helping us understand it better. He was the research scientist who guided Elemetrics and was responsible for developing stroboscopy and other voice assessment tools that we all use routinely today. And since leaving the business world, he has devoted his research career to clarifying voice. Our field evolved because it attracted people in disparate fields: engineering, computer science, early on physics, Ingotita, who brought different perspectives, different skills, different levels of rigor to the study and investigation of voice. Dimitar is one of the prime and most successful examples of people who have enhanced the perspectives from which we can study, understand, and hopefully advance the world of voice. Dr. Deliyski.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for the nice introduction. Now the leverage is very high. It can only go low from here. I would like to thank Dr. Sokolov, the Voice Foundation, the Quintana Research Award Committee, and all of you for this high honor. In fact, the most precious thing about this award for me is that it comes from the community that I admire, and there is no better way to be rewarded for many years of work than receiving this award from you, from this group. Thank you so much. But before I go further, I would like to pay tribute to all the previous recipients of this award. Look at these names. Without these people, we wouldn't have this science. And these are my mentors. These are the people I learned from. And I feel very honored, but also very humbled and quite intimidated to be joining this list. So thank you for those of you who are here. Thank you for doing all the great work and laying the foundations that people like me could build on. So I would like to talk a little bit about my own journey in voice assessment. As an engineer in DYSPHONIALAND, any coincidental associations with children book titles are not coincidental. This is how I always felt. I was fascinated. I was dreaming. I was motivated by this wonderful world that was not the world that I trained in. So here's a quick bio sketch of the places I've been and the places I worked. So I graduated in computer science from Sofia Tech, and I did my PhD in the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. And this is where, actually, as Dr. Sadlov stated, I became aware of this need to study pathological voice. It was great. That was 1985. Computers were just becoming part of everyday life. Signal processing was a field that was becoming highly applicable, and it was just the right time to apply this knowledge to help another field. Actually, my master degree mentor was telling me when I graduated my master degree, he said, "A great man. Now you have mastered computer science. If you want to be a scientist, you have two choices: to do science in your field or to enhance another field. The latter is where you can make the biggest contribution." So after that, I did my postdoc at the University of Memphis, and during that time, I pretended to be, I don't know exactly what, some speech physiologist or voice physiologist, but I was still an engineer in my heart. And then I spent time as chief scientist of Elemetrics, now Pentax, where I was pretending to be an engineer, but I was an undercover scientist for many years. And then I continued my career through several universities, and I would like to talk a little bit about the paradigm that I've been dealing with. But first, I know that all of you expect that I have some great wisdom to share with you, so I'll give my shot at this first. So that's one of my favorite questions that I get. What is your profession? I go like, okay, well, let's see. Really, I don't know at this point. I mean, if we look at my faculty positions, they have been in communication sciences and disorders, total laryn-geology, pediatrics, mathematics, even as an affiliate. I went through the tenure systems in public health and medicine and communication arts and sciences. So none actually of these were related to engineering at all. So there comes a point when it's very difficult to answer the question, what is your profession? And I'm at that point. Another question, great question I get is, how do you wear so many hats? And it's really not about the hat. So that's what I love. Yeah, it's all about the head, the gut, and the heart. And this is what has guided me and should guide anyone who dares to step into voice science, and any science, in fact. So, what does it take to do multidisciplinary research? I know many of you are saying, oh, I'm dealing with this engineer, oh my goodness, like, how do I explain to him or her what needs to be done? Or an engineer saying, well, clinicians, I mean, they never get actually what I'm trying to tell them. Well, one thing that I've been trying to mentor my doctoral students and postdocs and other students who step into science is to make this separation. So what is actually the professional training? It has two aspects. A profession has two aspects that is built during our professional training. One is the knowledge and skills that we get. And then it's also the so-called professional paradigm, where we form it almost, this profession becomes part of our identity, It defines the approaches that we take, the methods that we use, the attitude, and even our appearance, even what we wear. So the key thing for being part of a multidisciplinary team and be successful at it, in my opinion, is to make this separation and always keep the knowledge and skills and further improve them, but be very adaptable about the paradigm and try to learn different paradigms. So this is where you lose that identity. This is where you are no longer an engineer or a speech pathologist or a physician. You are a scientist. So I'll go back to my journey, and what initially fascinated me during my doctoral studies is observing in a voice practice how perceptual assessment is done. And I said to myself, well, I mean, now we can actually do something with these signals, that we can look further. Because perceptual assessment, yes, it will characterize the quality of the sound into categories. It will probably give us the severity, but it's not going to show the causes, right? So we needed something to look further. So there was some great body of research at that time from some people trying to apply acoustic measures. And what I did during my dissertation work was based on Gunnar Pann's voice production model. I created an extension, a hypothetical extension for multidimensional measurements of the acoustic signals. Basically, pretty much everything that made sense that we can measure from the acoustic signal, and that later that became is known as MDVP, which became commercially available to Elemetrics. So the idea here was not so much to characterize the sound, but to rather give us as many dimensions as we can measure reliably that tell us something about the process, about the function. So the idea was that we complement what clinicians get to perception with some physiology information. And what I started learning very quickly after the commercial introduction of MDVP is how clinicians actually use MDVP. So it was very much used to characterize, to document dysphonia, rather than looking at what the vocal folds might be doing. And so clearly there was a need for both. There was a need for a way to characterize the sound. In other words, to provide through the acoustic signal measures of perception that correlate to perception, to address the reliability of perception the way we do it. But there was also a need to use the acoustic signal to look further. So the work of Hillenbrand and Shaheen A1 and Rahul Srivastava, David Evans, and many others addressed the work of how we can create acoustic measures that better predict perception. But I continued wondering what can we do about better characterizing the function, so we can add information to the highly needed perceptual characteristics to the characterization. So that made me in the early 90s, that started making me look into laryn-geal imaging, and where I discovered another big discrepancy. And the big discrepancy is that when we do a voice assessment, clinicians typically listen to the sound and characterize it, and then look endoscopically at the vocal folds. The problem is that we haven't completely understood the relationships. So, for example, we may hear a perceptive retinates and look endoscopically and find a lesion, but how do we know that the lesion is the cause of that perceptive? So by removing the lesion doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to improve the voice quality. So these were the kind of questions that I began wondering about. And that took me into the field of high-speed video endoscopy. And the reason I moved to high-speed video endoscopy is because with video stroboscopy, we are very limited. We're limited because we don't have the temporal resolution, the high temporal resolution to look at all the stationary and non-stationary events that occur. So essentially with high-speed video endoscopy, we could get an image that corresponds to a phase of the vocal fold vibration that can be attributed to particular samples of the acoustic signal or electrophotography, and that at this time fascinated me. So a long journey began from there, since the mid-90s, to try to understand these relationships, how this vibration relates to the acoustic signal. And potentially the million-dollar question is, how does it relate to perception as well? Because there has to be something in the function that we perceive through the acoustic signal. And only then, only by understanding these relationships, we can answer the question, what specifically do we have to measure in the acoustic waveform that we perceive to have physiologic value? So I'm not going to talk in details about everything that has been done. The time that wouldn't allow me to do that. Plus, if I start talking, I can talk, and people who know me well, they know this. So I would rather talk about what motivates me for the future. But before I go there, I would like to acknowledge the amazing people that my destiny gave me the chance to work with. So these are the people that I learned from. Hopefully some of them learned from me. So these are my mentors and also my students and postdocs. I thank you all. And I hope to continue our journey together. Also, I would like to thank for the support the National Institutes of Health and ABCD and the Voice Health Institute and the institutions that I worked in their generous support to fund my endeavors. I also want to thank my family, represented by my son here, for being patient with me and for the support and understanding to help me go after my dreams. So many people now say, well, okay, congratulations, you got the Satellite Award. So, I'm sorry, the Quintana Award. Are you planning to retire? And I haven't thought about that yet. So I actually have plans for the next 30 years. And so I gave you a quick retrospective of the past 30 years of these endeavors. Now I would like to go at least within the next 10 of the next 30 years, what motivates me and what I find fascinating. So that corresponds to the discussion that we had before. What fascinates me is that since dysphonia is a communicative disorder, and most voice disorders review in the context of connected speech, we shouldn't be evaluating vocal fold function just in the context of sustained intonation. And due to technological and methodological limitations, this is mostly what we did. So the ability to measure and document phonatory oscillations, voice onsets, offsets, adductions, abductions in the context of running speech would be an important advance. And I don't have to convince many of you here in this room why this is so. This is a well-recognized need. We spoke about when this would be possible for many, many years in the acoustic world and using different other methodologies. And I'm happy to say that we are about to be able to break that shell. Finally, our capabilities take us to addressing this big question. So this is a video that I stole from YouTube and gave credit to Kansas Voice Center. So what you see is a flexible video stroboscopic exam of connected speech, which includes also the rainbow passage. So obviously, this has been done for many years. We are trying to understand the laryngeal maneuvers during running speech.
They act like a prism and form a rainbow.
The only problem with video stroboscopy, as you can see, is that we see practically nothing about the vibratory function of the vocal folds during running speech. So, for those of you who were here for the previous session, Miriam Mekibolkosini already demonstrated the late success that we had in analyzing connected speech using high-speed video endoscopy. So this is, I will play a little bit further this so you can see this is a recording of the full rainbow passage. Well, it's actually the first 30 seconds of it. Not total full, but I'm not going to play the whole thing because we don't have 3 hours. But this is just the very beginning when the sunlight. So we're still probably in the first vowel right here, and the ability to visually assess a high-speed video recording. I mean, for one thing, is we're able to finally record that. That's fascinating. But even with the ability to record it by combining ultra-sensitive, light-sensitive, high-speed video endoscopy cameras with flexible endoscopes, is far from enough. We end up with these giant files, hundreds of thousands, almost a million frames, depending on how much we record. And then, just looking at the recording, we obviously cannot, we lose comprehension of where we are in the sentence. Now, luckily, with the techniques that we develop, we can produce stroboscopy from the high-speed video. So when we do that, we can see a little bit of the vibratory function, but we also get the real-time playback. So we can better understand the laryngeal maneuvers. So obviously, navigating this amount of data is not feasible by hand, and we need techniques for automatic analysis and extraction of the information that we need. So I will repeat the slide that Miriam showed earlier for those who were not here in the room. So that was the first step. The first step was to create an automatic temporal segmentation method, which allows tracking the location of the vibrating vocal folds and then extracts an estimate. So this is, I want to emphasize, this is not the actual glottal area waveform, this is an estimate of the glottal area waveform, which is the only purpose we are doing this is so we can detect where the onsets and offsets are, also using the image to find where the abstractions of the glottis are, so we can consider that information when proceeding further. Obviously, this needs to be followed by spatial segmentation for glottal area waveform detection, and also the developed measures that can be used to measure certain physiological characteristics. Now, I want to, just for fun, I want to show you something that is fascinating, that I find fascinating. So what you see in blue here is the glottal area waveform estimate and fundamental frequency extraction at the bottom. In fact, when we play this estimate, we can almost, certainly we recognize the prosody of the speech and a lot of the characteristics. So this is not an acoustic recording. This is coming straight from the vocal folds. I will actually play for you the whole rainbow passage. So next steps here are, we are already working, of course, on extracting measures of the vibration of the vocal folds in the context of connected speech. But these need to be completely new type of measures. So we are no longer talking about just variations of the pitch or something like this. Variations of the period of vibration. We need measures like this one, for example, that we did a couple of years ago that was in the context of connected speech, but it's a perfect measure for connected speech vocal attack time. This is interestingly, this can be a measure that can be done endoscopically by looking at the time between the first vibration of the vocal folds. I don't see actually where that must be it. Yeah, so we measure the time from the first vibrations of the vocal folds to the first contact, and we define this as glottal attack time. But interestingly, that corresponds very precisely to the rise of the amplitude in the acoustic signal and the rise of the amplitude of the EGG. So we published this work earlier that shows that where we validated the EGG acoustic measure from this one. So I'm just showing you this as an example. Currently, we are developing a battery of measures like this that can be extracted from the high-speed video in running speech, but also to find the physiological equivalents in the acoustic EGG world. So we can create a set of acoustic EGG non-invasive measures to reflect physiological characteristics. So where is that going? So there are very interesting questions. So the first question is to investigate the influence of the physiological characteristics of vocal fold vibration in connected speech on the resulting perceptual voice quality characteristics. And this is especially important for patients with neurogenic and certain functional disorders. and also to determine the extent to which change in voice outcome following treatment relates to the changes of underlying voluntary mechanisms. So I heard a question before, I think it was from Carol, about the phonetic content, like how I think this is exactly the question. Because in the context of learning speech, let's say if we have a rainbow passage and we, let's say, include the 6 Katie sentences, we're talking roughly about 200 words that are very phonetically diverse. So in fact, our perceptive readiness, strain, roughness may be coming from particular combinations, particular phonetic combinations of and what the vocal folds are doing during these words. So we have the ability actually to look into that. The next question is to investigate the influence of the physiological characteristics of vocal fold vibration to the electrophotographic and acoustic characteristics. So what I showed you earlier, to establish the relationships of the vibratory function to what we can measure outside to the acoustic and EEG, and also to establish the efficacy in measuring voice outcome after treatment using such EEG and acoustic techniques. And then, last but not least, actually this is probably the most exciting piece, is we have unique opportunity to apply machine learning methods in order to discover laryngeal voluntary mechanisms that contribute to dysphonia in neurogenic and functional voice disorders that we currently don't know, that we cannot hypothesize for. And this is what machine learning is great about. So we can simply feed the different characteristics and make the machine learn the patterns and give us signatures that relate to these perceptual characteristics. And then after reviewing these signatures and patterns, we can better understand the physiologic events that then we can develop measurements for. So this is actually what keeps me excited for the next 30 years. And I would like to thank you again for the wonderful award. And again, I couldn't be more honored, humbled, and intimidated at this moment. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That was just as wonderful as we had anticipated. Please enjoy the break. Visit our exhibitors and the food. If you have not bought gala tickets, they're still available. There is an editorial